So 35 billion. That's the number of connected devices that is estimated to ship by 2020. Just to put that into perspective, that's about 4 devices for every man, woman, and child in this entire planet. And looking around, some of you will have probably 20, and others will have 1 or 2. And that's just in the year 2020, not the ones you purchased prior to that. So I'm Loni Stark, and I head up strategy and product marketing for Adobe Experience Manager. It's not Photoshop, it's not Illustrator, it's not the Adobe products you know for creating content. It's actually part of the Adobe Marketing Cloud, which is our initiative. Many brands use it to be able to take great content and actually reach the audiences that matter, the audiences that your brand wants to engage with. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about where all this craziness that you heard today, right? All the technology, all the tools, all these things, where is it all going? And how do we keep sane in this world as marketers and as technologists? So what I want to do today is dial it back on the technology and actually talk about what you need to think about as a framework for being able to build your business and make sure that it's still relevant and it grows for the next 5-10 years. So what we'll do to do that is to first start off with where we are on this journey. So take a look at, okay, by 2020 we're going to have 35 billion devices, connected devices. What does that mean? Where are we on that? And then I want to bring it down to looking at what are companies doing with those digital experiences and technologies, and make it concrete for all of you. And then I want to get to the 3 takeaways, because we all have to have that, because we're all, I think, on a mission to make sure you have great things to bring back after this conference. 3 things that you need to think about in any of the technologies, any of the tactics that you heard today. So let's start off with where we are in the journey. And before I get there, I want to talk a little about my journey to start off with. So I started off as an engineer, actually. 17 years ago. I started that when I was like 9 years old. And I started as an engineer at a telecommunications company building software that literally sat on devices in deserts that would switch the internet traffic, right? The whole point of the software was that people didn't actually have to go and fly into the desert and basically reboot that network element when it stopped working. So it was software that kind of had false alarms and actually would try to recover it from software so that someone didn't have to fly into the desert. I realized that wasn't for me. I realized that I was passionate about technology that had an impact in delivering digital experiences to people, that people actually saw and interacted with. And so that's when I joined Adobe, and now I have one of the greatest jobs in the world, which is I head up the strategy for software that helps companies build out digital experiences like websites, mobile apps, in order to build their brand, drive demand. And so I think we're at the most interesting point in our history right now in terms of the impact of digital on marketing and also on just customer experiences in its entirety. So for a techie and a marketer, this is an awesome time to be. So where are we? So if we take it here, this was a study that was done middle of last year. So let's just say we're here now, right, in this journey. Is a lot of the brands I talk to, Audi, Hyatt, all these brands, and you're feeling it, you're tired. You're like, this digital thing, this having to create websites, having to do search optimizing, having to do advertising, having to, there's so many different ways, and it's so easy to reach my audiences, but it's so easy for my competitors too, and this is getting really tiring. And as people, you're feeling that way too. You have like all these devices. Well, what I want to say is, to put into perspective, is we're just here. Which means if you think it's crazy now, it's only going to get crazier. In the next 5 years, the devices that are going to be in place, that are going to be available to all of you, half of them, I would say, have yet to be created, imagined, and made available to the masses. So we better get it right now. And for Forrester, so what does that look like for a company? You know, that big graph with 35 billion. By the way, that's one of the conservative estimates, okay? Some of the estimates by analysts are so outlandish, I'm like, I can't put that up there. So for enterprises, Forrester did a study to look at the state of digital experiences. And about, the average is about 268 different digital experiences. But what's more interesting is the fact that someone else pointed it out earlier today, that if you add up all these percentages, they equal more than 100%, right? Which means that just because we got a tablet, we got the latest device, we didn't throw out the other ones. In fact, the Apple Watch, who's ordered or got the Apple Watch? Mine comes in like 2 weeks. But the Apple Watch, you actually need to have the iPhone in order to use your Apple Watch, right? So people are using all these devices, and it's still the one individual. So that's why I think connected experiences are really important. What does this look like from a lifestyle perspective? So take it from the customer perspective, right? Connected lifestyle. So what's interesting here is mapping out when 50% of households in different regions around the world has internet or high-speed internet, and then the adoption of all these devices, the smartphone, the tablet, the connected home device, the wearables. And what's interesting here is even though high-speed broadband is being adopted at different speeds, what you'll see is that this idea of smartphones, tablets, etc., it's a global phenomenon happening almost synchronously across the world. What's happening with connected wearables? So let's talk about some of the devices and what people are actually doing with these sort of devices. Connected wearables, this is showing the number of connected fitness devices and smartwatches. So in terms of the wearables, the fitness device, like your Fitbit, which I'm wearing one right now, is the most popular, which is also why when you look at the smartwatches, that's one of the key applications that they want to come out with in order to take advantage of that, because that is one of the key use cases. What you'll also see is that 77% feel it would be useful to receive marketing promotions on their smartwatch while they're in a physical store. So someone was talking about location-based. And those numbers are jumping. So when you take that survey and you split it, the survey that Adobe did, and split it to millennials, you'll see that those numbers keep on going up. So the future generations are open to that. Connected cars. What you'll see is most companies these days, the car manufacturers are starting to offer plans to get connected cars for home entertainment, audio. Where I think this is really going to explode is when the intersection of connected cars and self-driving cars. Okay, because as a marketer, if you think about it, you're driving a car, you're thinking, okay, you're not going to be surfing the internet, at least you shouldn't, although I was recently in a taxi where someone was surfing the internet as they were driving, which is a little scary. But once it's connected and it drives itself, guess what? Your connected car turns into a living room. You know, I was talking to a car manufacturer, I'm saying, you know, the cars will actually, the seats will turn inwards and it'll just be almost decorated like a living room. You get in and that's another moment where brands can interact, connect with these brands. Connected homes. The most popular connected home device right now is meters. And the reason why these smart meters are, I believe, proliferating is because of needs around environmental concerns of being able to measure things. So oftentimes they are supported by government and utility firms. And also there is a cost benefit to being able to have smart meters in your home and regulating and making sure that you're efficiently using utilities and saving costs. So what you can see is that the set of devices that are going to be here in 2020 and beyond are far greater, in the ways that you're going to need to reach out to all of these customers that you're trying to target. The opportunity is greater, but there's also a lot of chaos that can happen if you don't deliver a connected experience. On the plane ride here, I was reading the latest issue of Consumer Reports. If you have it, I would check out their article, because they did a really good article on connected devices, talking about also privacy and things like that. So I think it's a really important article to read as marketers about how you balance that out between getting that information and being able to use your responsibility. So what I'm trying to show from all of these graphs is we're still in an infancy in terms of these digital experiences, and that the opportunity for digital is really at the intersection of physical and digital, and how it starts to permeate all our lives. So what are ways in which this can happen. So a couple of things. So smartwatches is one area, but the adoption of it is still taking some time. Why is that? The main reason, if you look here, is that people don't see the value in its functionality. So that's a really important part, is that as you build out these digital experiences, thinking about ways that it's useful, even as marketers. Because just like email, who remembers the first email they ever got? Right? It was really exciting. You probably forwarded it on. Now it's like your email, I mean, Google has a way to filter out spam, right? And things like that. So you need to make sure that when you create these digital experiences that they're actually useful. So Burberry is interesting. Burberry is melding the physical and digital. So in their store in London, being able to take a purse or a piece of clothing with RFID, putting it on a platform, and being able to get information, videos, on a screen to get more information as you are in the store. So combining the two, the benefits of digital as well as physical. John Lewis is starting to work with different companies, startups, in looking at what does it mean when digital and physical comes together. So they last year ran a contest, which they're running again this year, and they chose Local Z, which is a startup that's looking at location-based marketing, which is also something that Adobe's innovating on, and there's a lot of possibilities there. BMW is doing something kind of Uber-like. They have something called Drive Now, where with an app, being able to unlock cars around London and being able to rent those out as well with the app. And then Disney, some of you have seen, there's a great article in Fast Company that you should take a look at. And I like this Disney example because if you think about it, that's really about physical. I mean, here you go to Disney World, right? It's physical. And even they realized that the whole physical experience was changing as a result of the expectations that people have who are digital natives, who grew up with digital. And so they have been doing a lot of work with their My Magic bracelet, which is something that identifies, the participant in the amusement park to offer a much more personalized experience, to streamline lineups, etc. So those are some examples of how companies are thinking about digital experiences beyond just the websites, looking at wearables and mobile apps and how it connects to Internet of Things and physical devices. So what does that mean in terms of your investments in digital marketing, right? So I think there's three things. One is that mobile is not an option. Some people still ask me, do I really need a mobile app? Do I need to do mobile sites? It's actually a precursor to Internet of Things. So when Internet of Things comes around, if you haven't invested in mobile, it's not going to save you. It's actually going to make it even more challenging if you don't have your mobile strategy set up. Two is you can't build your business on anonymity, and I'll talk about that and more. And then three is you need smarter content and data that actually takes action. So not just about big data. Someone asked me just recently, what do you think about big data? I said, big data is big problems, right? It's like, it's big data for what? And so a lot of what you need to think about is how do you actually use big data for certain problems that you have, and start with the problem before you're like, hey, let's just collect everything in the world in terms of the data. So mobile as a precursor to Internet of Things. So if you look at all of these embedding of digital into physical devices, is that we've thought about digital experiences as content consumption, right? When we binge watch on Netflix. We've thought of it as interactive, when we play games on a mobile app. But I like to take it further and say that mobile apps are becoming the remote control to the Internet of Things. Okay? And so you need to start to think about how you build out mobile apps for your business that allows for your customers and your employees to use the app not only as a content consumption, not only as interactive, but also as a remote control to the Internet of Things. And an example of that is Uber, right? Uber, everybody gets excited. In fact, there's a promo for $30 off of Uber. I I want you to not only go and visit Santa Monica, I also want you to think about what you're really doing. Because I think people say, oh, it's hailing the taxi. That's not the exciting part. The exciting part of Uber is that it's an app that allows you to be a kid again. It allows you to basically use it as a remote control for a car. And if you don't think that's true, imagine when that Uber car becomes a self-driving car, okay? It's like your kid with your latest toy, and you're doing that. The app for being able to monitor your irrigation, right? Another way of using it as a remote control to control all those other devices. The fact that Uber can do surge pricing, right? That's only possible because every single car that is part of the Uber fleet is connected through mobile devices, so it's almost like doing a hack on a self-driving car, right? Having every single driver of Uber have a mobile app so that they can communicate surge pricing, and for you to be able to actually instantaneously get what you want from it. And anyone who questions the power of this, just imagine, for those of you that are old enough, the first time you got remote control to your television. Right? Before that, channel surfing. How many people remember that? Yeah, you know, you're getting up from the couch, you're like turning on, you go back. I mean, if only Fitbit was around at that time, right? Then you can at least log in your steps. But the first time you got the remote control, oh my gosh, was that fabulous or what? Okay, now imagine the entire world of Internet of Things, right? So the second area is around you can't build your business on anonymity. And when I say this, most people think I mean collecting emails, social media accounts, all of that stuff. That's important. But don't do the tactic without understanding what the value is for your customer when you do that. Okay, because look at this. Why is, so we talked about smartwatches. 54% of people are worried that my smartwatch will be hacked, privacy violated. 48% believe that marketers will track my location in a store, parentheses, without me knowing and giving permission around it, right? 38% are afraid that marketers will abuse their ability to reach me with an offer at any time. So don't just focus on the tactic, because okay, what if all of you decide to send this guy, right? Okay, every time he comes into the hotel, you're all going to send him an offer. How long do you think he's going to be like, I don't want to talk to any of you guys, right? I mean, that would be crazy. So as it gets easier to do this, right, it was a great analogy about email. How much email spam do we all get, right? So what you need to do is make sure you build trust. Okay, so we need to rethink what it means to get that identity, because we need that customer identity. Because as customers get more and more of these devices, the only way you're able to cut through the noise is being able to deliver connected experience. And to deliver that connected experience without being creepy, okay? Because one day we will have technology to know who everyone here is. But unless you as individuals give permission to be known, you're going to be creepy. It's going to be like, you know, Minority Report. Everybody brings up Minority Report. So it's not just about being able to with technology. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's also about consent from the customer and actually saying, you know what, I like your brand enough, you're delivering enough value to me that I actually want to give you information. So don't collect email addresses or social media just so you can DM someone or email them offers or promotions, but also think about more unique things you can do with their identity that actually adds value as well. And these are some examples. And the final is smarter data, smarter content that also, and data that takes action. So this is all about algorithms and about machine learning and AI. We're at a point with so much content and so much data that we actually need smarter content, so content that you're tagging, you're being able to find it, but also data that isn't only big, because, you know, it's like someone plops a bunch of big data on my desk. That's just a big problem. What you want is the ability to have technology that allows you to either give you the insights around the big data, right? Like here's something that you want to do, make it actionable, or even to the point where it can also do those actions for you and start to really deliver that personalized experience at scale. So those are really the three key things to think about as you look at all the tactics, all the technologies. Is one, That mobile is not an option. It's a precursor to Internet of Things. It's the remote control to your Internet of Things. 2 is don't build your business on anonymity. Think about how marketers, you're delivering real value to customers, because you will need their identity in order to actually deliver connected experiences, but you want to do it in a way that is trust. And I believe consumer trust is the ultimate asset for a marketer. Not an email mailing list, not a social media, it's trust. All these other things are tactics. And 3 is smarter content and data that takes action. So thank you for your time.